What if I told you that with just a few simple words, you could make anyone agree with you? Or that there's a secret way to make people remember you forever? These aren't magic tricks. They're psychology hacks that actually work, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to use them. But be warned, with great power comes great responsibility. Trick number 1 is called the Benjamin Franklin effect, and it's going to blow your mind because it's completely counterintuitive. Most people think that if you want someone to like you more, you should do them favors, buy them gifts, or be extra nice to them. But psychology research shows that's actually backwards. If you want someone to like you more, don't do them a favor. Ask them to do you a small favor instead. Here's the fascinating story behind this discovery. Benjamin Franklin had a rival in the Pennsylvania legislature who absolutely despised him and was making his political life miserable. Instead of trying to win this guy over with gifts or compliments, Franklin did something genius. He knew this rival owned a very rare and valuable book, so he wrote him a polite letter asking if he could borrow it for a few days. The rival was surprised by the request, but agreed to lend the book. When Franklin returned the book with a thank you note, something magical happened. The rival's attitude completely changed. Not only did he become friendly toward Franklin, but they eventually became lifelong friends. But why does this work? It's because of something called cognitive dissonance. Our brains constantly try to make sense of our actions. When we help someone, our brain says, wait, if I'm helping this person, they must be worth helping. They must be a good person, otherwise why would I waste my time? Try this technique yourself. Ask a coworker to grab you a coffee when they're getting one, ask a classmate for a pen, or ask a neighbor for a small favor. Watch how their attitude toward you changes almost immediately. It's like psychological magic. Trick number 2 is called mirroring, and it's one of the most powerful tools in human psychology. Here's the science behind it. Humans are evolutionarily wired to like and trust people who are similar to us. It's a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors identify who was part of their tribe and who might be a threat. When someone mirrors our behavior, our subconscious brain interprets this as this person is like me, therefore they're safe and trustworthy. So here's exactly what you need to do. Subtly copy the other person's body language, tone of voice, speaking pace, and even their breathing patterns. If they lean forward during conversation, wait a few seconds, then lean forward too. If they cross their arms, you can casually cross your arms a moment later. If they speak in a slow, measured way, you slow down your speech to match theirs. If they use certain words or phrases frequently, incorporate those same words into your responses. But here's the critical part. You must be subtle about this. You're not trying to be a mime or make it obvious. The goal is to create an unconscious connection, not to make them think you're copying them. Studies have shown that people who are skillfully mirrored feel more understood, more connected, and more positive toward the person doing the mirroring. Sales professionals use this technique all the time, and it's incredibly effective. Master negotiators, therapists, and successful leaders all use mirroring to build rapport quickly. The key is practice. Start with small gestures and work your way up to more complex mirroring. When done correctly, it's like creating an invisible bond with another person. Number 3 is the foot in the door technique, and it's based on one of the most fundamental aspects of human psychology, our need for consistency. Once we commit to something small, we feel psychologically compelled to stay consistent with that commitment, even when the requests get bigger. This technique has been studied extensively, and the results are remarkable. Here's how it works. You start with a request so small that it would be almost rude for someone to say no. Then, once they agree to that small request, you follow up later with a progressively larger request. The magic happens because of something called commitment consistency. When someone agrees to help you with something small, they begin to see themselves as the type of person who helps you. To maintain this self-image, they're much more likely to say yes to bigger requests later. Let me give you some concrete examples. Instead of immediately asking someone to volunteer for a whole day at a charity event, first ask them to sign a petition supporting the cause. A week later, ask if they'd be willing to share the petition on social media. Then later, ask if they could volunteer for just an hour. Finally, ask for the full day commitment. Each step makes the next one seem reasonable. In business, instead of asking for a huge contract right away, start by asking for a small consultation fee. Once they've invested that money, they're psychologically committed to the relationship and much more likely to sign the bigger deal. The success rate for this technique can increase your chances of getting a yes by up to 300%. But remember, use this ethically for legitimate group projects, charitable causes, or reasonable business requests. Trick number 4 exploits one of our most primal psychological drives, the fear of missing out, also known as FOMO. The scarcity principle states that people assign more value to opportunities when they believe those opportunities are rare, limited, or disappearing. This isn't just marketing hype, it's hardwired into our evolutionary psychology. Our ancestors who could quickly recognize and act on scarce resources were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. You see this principle everywhere in the modern world. Only 3 left in stock. Limited time offer. Last chance to register. VIP access for the first 100 people only. These aren't random marketing tactics. They're sophisticated psychological triggers designed to activate your scarcity instincts and make you act immediately instead of thinking it over. But here's where it gets really interesting. You can use this principle in your everyday personal and professional interactions. Instead of saying, "Let me know if you want to hang out sometime," try saying, "I'm free this Saturday evening, but it's honestly the only time I have available for the next few weeks." Instead of "Think about my proposal and get back to me," try, "I need an answer by Friday because I have 2 other opportunities I'm considering and I can only pursue one of them." The key is that your scarcity must be real and legitimate. People can sense fake urgency, and it will backfire on you. But when the scarcity is genuine, it creates psychological urgency that drives people to action. Time limits, limited availability, exclusive access, and competing alternatives all trigger this powerful psychological response. Use it ethically, and watch how much more responsive people become to your requests. Number 5 is the Reciprocity Rule, and it might be the most powerful psychological force in all of human interaction. This principle is so fundamental to human nature that it exists in every culture around the world. When someone does something nice for us, we feel an almost overwhelming psychological obligation to return the favor. It's not just politeness. It's hardwired into our social DNA because reciprocal relationships were essential for our ancestors' survival. The fascinating thing about reciprocity is that it doesn't have to be proportional. Sometimes a small favor can create a sense of obligation that leads to much larger favors in return. Studies have shown that people will often reciprocate with something much more valuable than what they initially received. This happens because the psychological debt feels uncomfortable, and people want to clear it as quickly as possible. Here's the strategic approach. Always give first, then ask later. But your giving must be genuine, unexpected, and come with no strings attached, at least not obviously. Bring donuts to the office before asking colleagues for help with a challenging project. Give someone a sincere, specific compliment before making any request. Share valuable information or resources freely before asking for a favor. Help someone solve a problem they're struggling with, and they'll be much more inclined to help you later. The key is that your generosity must feel authentic. People have incredibly sensitive radar for fake kindness or manipulative giving. But when your generosity is genuine, it creates what psychologists call a psychological debt that people genuinely want to repay. They feel good about helping someone who has been kind to them. This isn't manipulation. It's building authentic, mutually beneficial relationships through the natural law of reciprocity. Trick number 6 is the anchoring effect, and it's probably the most underestimated yet powerful negotiation tool you'll ever learn. This psychological phenomenon occurs every single time someone makes a decision involving numbers, prices, or comparisons. Here's how it works. The first number mentioned in any negotiation becomes the anchor that influences all subsequent judgments and decisions. Everything else gets compared to that initial anchor point. The research on anchoring is absolutely mind-blowing. In one famous study, researchers asked people to guess the percentage of African countries in the United Nations. But before asking the question, they had participants spin a wheel of fortune that was secretly rigged to land on either 10 or 65. Those who saw the number 10 guessed an average of 25% African countries. Those who saw 65 guessed an average of 45%. A completely random number influenced their judgment on a totally unrelated topic. Here's how you apply this in real life. If you're selling something worth $100, don't start your negotiation at $100. Start at $150 and let them negotiate down. They'll feel like they're getting a deal at $120, even though you would have been happy with $100. If you want a project deadline extended by 2 days, ask for a week extension first. Suddenly, 2 days seems very reasonable. Real estate agents are masters of this technique. They'll show you an overpriced house first to anchor your expectations high. Then everything else seems like a bargain by comparison. Car salespeople show you the luxury model with all the premium features first, making the standard model seem incredibly affordable. You can even anchor expectations about your own performance. This project is really challenging and complex, but I think I might be able to get it done sets a low anchor for expectations. When you deliver on time with good quality, you look like a superstar who exceeded expectations. There you have it, 6 incredibly powerful psychology tricks that actually work in real life. But before you rush out to try these techniques, I need to give you a serious warning about responsibility and ethics. These methods work because they tap into fundamental aspects of human psychology that have been hardwired into our brains over millions of years of evolution. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more about the psychology of human behavior, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Drop a comment below telling me which technique you're most excited to try, but remember, use these powers wisely. You now have the ability to influence minds, so make sure you use that ability to make the world a better place. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.